Good afternoon, everyone. This is Nina Shulman Dajani at Marine Valley Community College, and I am the Assistant Dean in Learning Enrichment and College Readiness, as well as the advisor to the Arab Student Union. And I'm really excited today to start a conversation with some of the students here at Marine Valley about what it's like to be Muslim in America. I want them to tell us a little bit about their heritage and just anything that they would like to share with the audience about who they are and what they would like the public to know about being Muslim in America. I have members of the Arab Student Union as well as the Muslim Student Association, real awesome students that decided to volunteer today, and they're going to start off by introducing themselves. If you guys can just tell me your name, tell the audience your name, and where you're from, maybe what your major is. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's start with Omar.
Alaikum, peace upon you. My name is Omar. I'm currently a student at Marine Valley Community College. My intended major is Management Information Systems. I plan to transfer to DePaul University hopefully this fall. You know, I'm just coasting through life. I love school. I love Marine. Everything about Marine is awesome.
Hello everyone, Assalamu Alaikum na jamia. Thank you everyone for listening to us. My name is Rama Diab. This is my second year at Marine Valley. I am originally Palestinian. I lived overseas for 9 years and I came to the States 5 years ago. I'm majoring in elementary education and I'll be graduating in May and transferring next fall. I'm a member of the Arab Student Union and Muslim Student Association at Marine Valley. I'm also a student worker here on campus. I've had amazing experience and I'm really happy that I'm being a part of this amazing podcast. This is my last semester, so I'm truly enjoying everything that I'm doing this semester, and I definitely recommend everyone to do stuff like these that are very helpful, and you will definitely listen back to it in the future. And I guess just remember the memories that you had at such an amazing school.
Hi, my name is Haneen. I am currently studying pre-pharmacy here at Marine. My parents are originally from Palestine, and I'm involved in the Arab Student Union and the Muslim Student Association.
Hello, my name is Hussein Salem. This is my first year in Marine, and I plan on transferring to UIC. My major is pre-dental. I hope to become a dentist in the future. I was born and raised here in Illinois, but my parents are originally from Yemen, and I'm excited for this podcast.
Hi, my name is Omar Amir. So I'm originally from Egypt. I came from Egypt 9 months ago. So I'm a freshie here, and I'm majoring in electrical engineering, and I'm planning to transfer to U of I, inshallah, next spring, inshallah. I just want to say in my whole life I didn't imagine actually me coming here to the US. I don't know, sometimes you don't know what life actually throws at you, but you gotta take it, see what it gets you to.
Hey, what's up? I'm Dunya Yasin. It's my first year at Marine. My major is psychology and my minor is art. I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago. I want to go to Columbia, but that's never going to happen. But I really want to go to Columbia. That's the school that I want to transfer to, but inshallah, yeah.
All right, that's awesome. So we know a little bit about our participants today. We have a diverse group. Some of our students hail from Palestine, others from Egypt, and some from Yemen. So I'm really excited that we have students from different backgrounds. But one thing that unites them is that they all identify as Muslim, and they're going to tell us a little bit about how their faith influences their daily routine. So that may vary for each person here. Everyone may practice in a different way, have different family routines and traditions in their households. So why don't you tell us, Omar, a little bit about, if you want to start off, how does faith influence your daily life?
As for me, as an American Muslim here in Chicago, how it really affects me is that my day revolves around my prayer essentially. So Muslims are obligated to pray 5 times a day, as we know. They have Fajr, the dawn prayer, Dhuhr, the midday prayer, Asr, the afternoon prayer, Maghrib, the sun down prayer, and Isha, the night prayer. And so with these prayers, essentially it helps me dictate where I allocate my time. So, for example, when I go to the gym, what time do I wake up? What time do I eat dinner? What time do I go to sleep? So I feel like it balances already a healthy lifestyle for me as an individual. And it allows me to be organized. And essentially, whenever you are organized, there's always success that comes with it. So just staying on time, being organized, time effective, time efficiency, So that's just one aspect how it plays in.
So do you feel like your faith plays a role in helping you keep a routine because you kind of make time for your prayers and then schedule things around that?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So, as the prayer changes, minute by minute each day, my body also adjusts to that routine, that schedule. So it's always something new. It's not robotic, and there's always room for different opportunities and activities. So it really is a blessing.
Right. Anyone else want to jump in on that question?
So I grew up in a really religious household. Both my parents were very religious and promoted having a stronger connection with Allah, and but what they always give us leeway to do it on our own. Although they promoted try to get closer, they kind of let us do it on our own. There's different versions to get closer to God, whether it be prayer or just doing activities that bring you closer to God. And through that, I've really researched Islam. I really read the holy book, the Quran, and I've really discovered the peacefulness and the beauty of Islam. And it's made me internally more peaceful as well as happier.
That's awesome. Anyone else?
So I'm just gonna kind of catch up on what they said. Everything they said is definitely true. I also grew up in my parents are religious, and what I like about my family is at home my dad likes us to pray a group prayer, and what I like about that is just it all motivate. I live in a big household of 6 family members, and what I like about that, it just all motivates us to actually get up and pray. Where if you're just by yourself, you do get lazy sometimes, you don't want to do it, but when my dad, the head of the house, gets up and invites us all to pray, it just kind of motivates all of us, which is something I like. Another thing I like in here in the United States, we do have a mosque that is probably close from all of us. That's in Bridgeview, the Mosque Foundation. And what I like about that is that they have the paper that says all the prayer times. And it is a struggle sometimes because you always have to get that paper because you have to follow that paper when exactly to pray. So that kind of motivates us to go to the mosque every week to get that paper, because really without that paper, you really don't know when to pray. What my family usually does.
There's an app for that now.
Yeah. We don't follow
century.
the app. I don't know. We like following the paper, the written stuff. So what I like about that, it does motivate us to get up and pray and follow the times, and yeah.
I wanted to go back to what Hussein said. My family was also like that. My parents are really religious, and they would also they would raise us with the religion, but it never felt like it was something that we had to kind of fight off, or it was never a force. And I would say that the religion kind of developed my character in a sense, because I would like to give credit to all, the just being Muslim in general, because not only does Islam teach you to keep your faith strong with Allah, but it teaches you how to be a decent human being in a sense, even though ethics and morals are
Play a role in our religion.
Yeah, it's a big aspect of Islam. So I would say a lot of my good manners and just a lot of my good intent and stuff, it comes from Islam, and that's just how the religion plays in my life. That's all.
I agree. I see Islam, it is a religion, but I also see as a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that the Quran preaches and and the Hadith and everything, they teach us how to live a day by day, live day by day in a peaceful manner, in the Muslim way, I guess you could say.
Essentially, just to add on to what you guys are all saying, is the aspect of purpose. Islam brings that purpose in our life. And so everything that we do, there's an intent behind it. And it's not we're doing something just because, cooking, cleaning, going to work, going to school, sitting down, sleeping, all of it has an intent. And that's the beautiful part, I feel with our faith.
So I wanted to touch upon the prayer, because some people just see us pray, and we're just moving our hands and falling on our faces and stuff. But I feel they don't see the deeper meaning behind it, because for me sometimes prayers sometimes getting what is on your chest to God, speaking to Allah and stuff, and speaking whatever you want and whatever you feel to Allah, and it makes you feel good to actually speak to somebody else, and you're gonna get answers because it's Allah, yani. So yeah, I also like that Rama's family pray in like a family group, because like my family also does it. I thought like I was the only one. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
So Ahmad brought up a point. He said sometimes people see us pray and they don't understand it, right? So that kind of brings us into one of the next topics I want to discuss, which was misconceptions. And we have a short amount of time to discuss this today, and I'm sure we could probably talk all day about some of the misconceptions in the media or typical stereotypes about Muslims. But as young people living in America, and some of you had the experience of living overseas and then moving here, and some of you were born and raised here. What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions about Muslims in America, or just misconceptions maybe even some of your classmates or professors might have? And what do you feel you would like to share with people about those misconceptions?
One of the biggest misconceptions I think that people oftentimes confuse is between like being Muslim and being an Arab. Being Arab, if you're an Arab, doesn't mean that you're automatically Muslim. There are Christian Arabs, there are Jewish Arabs, there are even like Hindu Arabs. I think you have to be very open-minded and realize that Islam is the religion and Arab is more geared to the culture.
I also wanted to like go on about Hussein's point, because like most people like don't probably know this, but like the Orthodox Pope is an Arab.
I kind of wanted to touch base upon like how social media views us. So we're always, labeled as terrorists, and I feel like that started happening ever since September 11, and people just accuse any Middle Eastern person, any Arab person, any female who wears a hijab, or any guy who has a beard as their terrorists. And I just want to like say that we are not terrorists. The word Islam means peace in English, and I definitely don't like it when I see on social media that they call it a terrorist attack. Anyone who's just named under an Arabic name, or just a person, a guy who looks Middle Eastern, they just accuse us of being terrorists, and that is not true. Our religion is all based on peace, and it does not have anything that includes hate or negativity between people. As you can see here, we're all friendly, and I definitely encourage everyone to just ask any Muslim person you see, ask them about their religion, or ask them any concern you have. I wouldn't mind if someone approached me asking me, why do you wear this hijab on your head? What does it reflect? Or like, why do you do this in your daily life? So I would definitely just say that it's knowledge is something that's very powerful, and that is the thing that determines whether a person is going to judge you based on something or not. So I definitely just feel like if you have any concern, you should just either ask the person who's in front of you, or just maybe research it, and you're not gonna lose anything.
To carry on that, there is no dress in Islam, so you can't label like how does a terrorist look. That doesn't exist. A terrorist is not how they look, is how they act upon it. And what they do. And so that's one thing too. And another thing, to go back to like the culture versus religion, same thing. A lot of people, when they think of Muslims, in a positive way, they think of, a guy wearing like a white long robe and a red little, something on his head, and then like a big beard. That's like more so like the beard part, sure, I'll give you that as a religious context. But like as far as like the dress, that's actually cultural. There is, the Prophet, peace be upon him, never said this is how you dress and you become Islam. Like, no, so like every culture is different. Like the Pakistani culture, they have it at their waist, and then it cuts down, and then you observe the Chinese culture, the Japanese culture. Culture varies, but religion structure stays the same.
I'd also like to bring a point. The majority of Muslims are actually non-Arab. I think the statistic is 15% of Muslims are Arab. So the majority are actually non-Arab. So there's Chinese Muslims, there's Indonesian Muslims, which Indonesia is the most populated Muslim country. There's many countries that are non-Arab and are Muslim, majority Muslim at least.
And one good point about that as well is that in the United States, the majority of Muslims are actually African American, and the majority of Arabs in the United States are Christian. And a lot of people don't realize that, especially in the southwest side of Chicago, because there's such a large Muslim community. But that's also a really good point to tack onto that. One of you guys said earlier that, your faith encourages different types of activities, or activities that you can do that make you feel like you connect with your faith. Can you talk a little bit about what are some of those activities that you may do that you feel are encouraged by the religion of Islam or by your practices in your faith? And what, types of activities do you feel like embody being a good Muslim or quote unquote good Muslim, whatever that means, right?
I think just being involved like with your community overall, and you have to be like, for example, like environmentally conscious. You have to like, or even just joining like MSA, or like putting yourself in a setting where you're like around Muslims and going to the masjid, or just attending a dars every once in a while, or like a lesson. It makes me aware of being like a mindful Muslim. So that's just what I think of when I think of like how to be a mindful Muslim.
Something that, an activity that I partake in and that makes me a mindful Muslim is, well, on Sundays, this is just personal, but Sundays we have like Zikir group. So we all like gather at my sister's house and we like do Adhkar together, which is basically like Zikir means like remembrance of Allah. So we like, they're kind of just like Alhamdulillah, which means like giving thanks to God, and then like we do like Astaghfirullah, which is like asking forgiveness from God, and just partaking in like those personal kind of activities, it strengthens my spiritualness and it makes me like closer to God, because like I remember who's the one that basically gave me the life that I'm living. Like it keeps me humble in a sense, so it keeps me on track as a good Muslim. Yeah.
Something that's very important also I want to mention is community service. I have actually a mini story I'd like to tell. In 2011, I was in Yemen and I stayed 8 months there, and it was actually during the Arab Spring, which, if you guys don't know, it was like a rise of riots and protests throughout the Arab world. And I was 11 years old, and there was a local school near us, and they had no teacher to teach English. And I took it upon myself to actually teach the class, a first and second grade class, English. I only did it for a couple months because after that, war broke and the country kind of went downhill. But looking back at that experience, like that really, I think one of the best thing to do is to like teach someone something, whether it be like, it doesn't have to be Islamic, whether teaching them another language like I did, or teaching them how to do a simple task. Those deeds go a long way, because when and if they pass that on, you get those deeds. But just looking back at that experience, that really strengthened my faith with Allah, and as well as like really motivated me to like be more active in my community.
Something really cool, to add on this aspect over here. So like, I'm part of like the Olympic Park Prayer Center's youth team, and one of the division is the philanthropy division. So we have a whole team dedicated for serving like people outside of the masjid. And so a lot of the activities that we've done, we've been to nursing homes, we've been to parks, we've cleaned up parks, we've been to like huge like Winterfest in our local Christian church, and we've helped them set up everything, clean up everything, run the programs. We've been to the food depository downtown in Chicago. The whole, the Prophet, peace be upon him, taught us the best of you are those who are the best to the people. And so we should always be in service of others, like you were saying. That is one of the prophetic teachings, and something that we Muslims always try to implement in our lives. That's something my dad always taught me too. Anytime we're on the road, if anyone stopped on the side, try to help them. If you see anyone in need, you never know how a smile or a sentence can go. That can always go a long way.
I would also like to talk about just how even partaking in like your community and taking care of it. For instance, me and Haneen, like our friendship is basically based off of like community service. Like when we hang out, we go do stuff like usually like we work on like environmental cleanups and like getting rid of like invasive species. So like not only does it keep us like good Muslims, it keeps us like good homies in a sense. Like it makes our bond stronger, and then it makes our like faith stronger as well. So
also like when like touching on what Dunya said, when me and her when we go and do these like events, usually we're like the only Muslims in the group, and they like people in like the groups that we go with tend to ask us questions, since we're both visibly Muslim, since we both wear hijab. So they tend to ask us a lot of questions, and it gives us like it's like good outreach to like the non-Muslim community. Like we can explain like what we believe in, and it helps kind of get rid of those misconceptions that people have of us, like as if like we're oppressed for wearing hijab, or we just overall just like the overall stereotypes.
Yeah, like I noticed a lot of people just think that we're like like we can't do any. I don't know. They always have that misconception that Islam is like a suffocating religion in a sense. So like being able to do like community service and going out there and talking to people about Islam and like answering questions that they didn't have or like that they have or things that they didn't know, like I don't know, it always makes me feel good like when I help somebody understand what Islam is rather than just going on and thinking like I wouldn't want them going on and thinking like Islam is this horrible thing where it doesn't allow like women to do anything, or it's just everything's like haram or not permissible. Yeah, even the small things like community service that could open up conversation.
I just thought of a very last misconception. I feel like in our religion, there's a huge misconception between aib and haram. So haram is religiously prohibited, while aib is culturally inappropriate. And I feel like in the society that we live in, a lot of people mix them up, where aib, which is what's culturally inappropriate, is not religious or like not prohibited, and then vice versa. And I feel like that is like a huge point that a lot of people focus on, because really it all like depends. It's all based on the person, what they do and what they think, but every person is going to tell you something different. And at the same time, every person is going to judge you differently. And I feel like people right now, we all focus on our culture, and then like how Omar said, it's the religion that doesn't change. Well, our culture and our values and our opinions always change. So that is also just one misconception that I really wanted to cover, the difference between them. Any non-Muslim or non-Arab who doesn't know what that is, there's a huge difference between that. And then there's also a huge difference between whether a person believes in it or not.
So you're saying that's a misconception within the Muslim community or inside and outside the Muslim community?
I would say inside the Muslim community more, because they know about it more, while outside the Muslim community they do not know about it, so they kind of think it's the same or it's not that important.
Well, it's a really good segue, because you had mentioned, cultural appropriateness versus religion and so on. I know all of you are talking about your faith and how that affects your life and so on, but I'm sure that you are also in tune with your heritage of your parents, grandparents, your ancestors, and the countries that they came from. And some of you have mentioned that you've lived overseas or visited overseas. And so can you tell me a little bit about how you balance maybe your appreciation for traditions and culture that were passed on to you, and balance that, with your faith as well? Tell us a little bit about that.
One thing I can definitely throw out is the fact that, first and foremost, my religion doesn't tell me I can't have culture. There is culture. At the end of the day, as long as you're within the borders, or in the boundaries, I should say, of what's permissible. I still, partake in, separate weddings. I still partake, in our traditional, outfits that we have. Like I have a few Arabic outfits, from my grandfather. I have a few hats from my father. We still have that same greeting in that one forbidden living room, and you drink tea and you learn different, these are all just minute aspects of it.
Let me jump in there. The forbidden living room is the living room with the fancy couches and the it's been vacuumed and nobody can mess it up.
Twice a day.
Right, twice a day. So
it's only for guests.
You go when your mom gives you a whooping.
Yeah, it's that one. And it's probably not just an Arab culture, but yeah, I just wanted to clarify that.
No, but yeah, so I still partake in everything that, my family throws at me, or we offer, or they offer, and I still love to learn. I still love to hear the stories about what happened in Palestine and what happened to my grandparents, where they went, where they ran, what they heard, what they seen, and, hopefully carry on this tradition for my kids too. But at the same time, if my culture breaks the boundaries of what's against my religion, I wouldn't go past that. And I've rarely run into that. My parents, alhamdulillah, thanks to God, that they're righteous and they balance everything together.
Along with that, I guess, I being a Yemeni, I'm very prideful being very Yemeni, especially I like the history of Yemen, the culture, and although it's conservative, it's mainly conservative because they want to keep the culture and the history intact. They kind of want to live in a traditional sense, I guess. But it's very Yemeni culture is very unique, and Yemenis are actually the original Arabs, which is very interesting, and I take a great pride in. But being a Yemeni, really the majority of Yemenis are Muslim, but just knowing the journey of the Prophet and the Sahaba, which were the companions of the Prophet. It really just how Yemen was how the Yemenis went into Islam very quickly, and how Islam was brought into the Yemen is very interesting, and it's just very interesting.
Being Muslim, like being a practicing Muslim in Palestine, wasn't really like, it was kind of a weird thing. And wearing hijab, just going to the masjid or any of this was kind of weird. Religion is kind of new to my family. No, I have family that live there, and then I've been there. So we're like seen as like the most religious, since we're like, my mom is like the one that really started the whole religion trend. She's the first one that really put on the hijab in the family. It's just, we kind of had to learn Deen on our own. Religion didn't really kick into Palestine until after the war. It became more of a thing. But yeah, so our Deen plays like a really big impact on our religion, because sometimes when we go back and like people see us, they question our religion, or like they're like it's kind of like what Rama was saying about like ayab or like haram. People like mix things up a lot. So yeah.
So like, to be honest, like from my perspective, the Muslims that live here in the US, I feel like they have a blessing. So like, because I feel the Muslims that that live here like are more religious and like actually care about the religion more than the people that live in the Arab nation. And like, I feel like they actually like care about each other and like actually like want them to be like better people. Unless like it was different from my the way how I was raised in like Arab and like the Arab community, because like I lived in like multiple Arab countries, and like most of them people were Muslims, but like they weren't actually religious, and my family was religious, so it was hard because like sometimes I would find myself praying like all of my classes like Muslims, but like I would be the only one like praying the actual salah on the time. So yeah, I feel like that's a blessing here to the Muslims that live in America.
I don't think I mentioned that I'm Palestinian, but I was like born and raised here, and I was born and raised with the Deen, so it was actually kind of weird. Like, the Deen helped me understand that I was like Palestinian, because I don't know, I went to like Sunday school, and they would like talk about like them being Palestinian, and I didn't know at a young age. I thought I was like, I don't know, I just knew that I was not American. That's all I knew. I didn't know that I was Arabi. Like, I wasn't introduced to that identity yet, in a sense. Like, I knew that my mom was Muslim. She would like come to school in her hijab and like the abaya, and like help cut out like shapes for the preschool class. But I never understood what I actually was. I just knew I was like Arab and Muslim. So it gave me, like, Islam in a sense gave me that door, because of like how much it led me to that door of understanding like I am Palestinian. And it made me, it like made me see the differences between Islam and culture, because people would do things like Palestinian like traditional culture things, like, again, going back to the ayib and haram, like they would do ayib things, but I didn't know they were ayib, and I never like said, oh, that was haram, because you don't know, it's not haram, it's just ayib, you don't know. I didn't have a sense of that. I didn't understand what was ayib and what was not. So like, being Muslim made me understand like, oh, this is ayib and this is haram, and like understanding like, just because it's like air quotes like ayib doesn't mean it's like haram. So
So I am also Palestinian, and I lived overseas for 9 years. I was born here, however, I lived there almost most of my life around people who all shared the same religion and same culture as me. So I just felt like it was easier for me to get closer to my culture, obviously because I was around people who shared the same culture and religion as me. After living there for 9 years straight, I came to the States 5 years ago for the first time. It was my second time. And when I came here, I kind of agree with what Omar said. People are not as religious as you might think they are, and of course their people are. My personal experience, I went to a big high school where I just felt like the Muslims or Arabs who were there did not really follow the right religious path, and I felt like, to me and my family and I just felt like that brought me closer into my religion, because you just see all the bad stuff that are happening in our religion and our culture, and all the corruption, that I just feel like that made me closer into my culture and my religion. And I remember my mom and my dad always telling me, do not get close from those people. Just always, in the beginning, when I first came, my parents were very strict, because they know, I guess, like, they know how people who have lived here, Muslims or Arabs who have lived there most of their lives, I would definitely say they act and say stuff that are different from people who lived overseas most of their life. And I was that person who, I guess, was like a fob, which means fresh off the boat when I came from overseas, and I wasn't aware of all of that. But as you live here and you meet all kinds of people, you kind of learn to appreciate not just your culture but your religion, and you learn to appreciate like how your parents raised you and taught you, because everyone just thinks differently, and every parent or every person, even if they were raised the right way, they choose to not follow their traditional or religious path. And that's just kind of something I wanted to focus on. People who are born overseas or lived overseas for most of their life are just, I feel like they're, not necessarily, they would think the same as people who have lived here, because everyone just has their own kind of views, and because everyone was raised around different people.
I have a question. How big was like the culture shock from here in Palestine? Like, how different was it?
Like on a scale from 1 to 10?
Yeah.
I would say like a 6 out of 10, maybe. Yeah.
Well, you also moved somewhere where there's a large concentration of Palestinians.
Yeah.
So that probably helped with your
True.
adjustment.
Yeah.
That's a good question, though. We have a few more minutes, and as we wrap up, we've been focusing on how faith plays a role in your everyday life. We talked a little bit about culture, but we're here, living in America. We're on the southwest side of Chicago in the suburbs at Moraine Valley Community College. And I mean, every day we do wake up and we live in this country. And, despite what's going on politically or economically, you're here, and it seems like most of you guys are probably here to stay. I don't know if you plan on moving overseas or living abroad in the future. You can comment on that. But, Omar brought up a really good point about how moving from Egypt, he feels like it's a blessing here, and how Muslims are living their life. And, can you guys talk a little bit, maybe in closing thoughts about, being Muslim in America, and just also the privilege of living here and having the opportunity to pray, go to your mosque whenever you feel like it. I mean, despite the hardships that Muslims might face. What are some of your thoughts on that?
The biggest privilege that I feel like I had living here was, not that they don't do it in the Arab countries, but like for my family, for example, like not a lot of the women get the education that they want, in a sense. I mean, they are educated, but they don't go past a certain stage. So being like American and having that value of education, and it's not a bad thing. I mean, everyone values their own thing in their own culture. So like, I mean, I feel like American culture, we really value like being educated. So being here gave me that opportunity to like go out and seek what I want to seek in life, and my faith just gave me that boost. Yeah, because I knew like with Allah on my side, like I don't have to worry about the stereotypes or the misconceptions or like the racism or anything. Like I could go forth with my dream and my goals without having to worry about like all the negativity out there, because just of the basic connection with Allah and how strong it is. And you were saying like about how like getting to know that other side of you, like getting to know the more Palestinian side of me. Like I hope one day I get to go out and see Palestine for myself, because I've never been there my whole life.
You would love it.
Yeah. I get like so envious, not envious, but I get like emotional for Palestinians that live there, and they tell me about their stories, and like I want to feel that for myself, because it'd be awesome to like finally be a part of the majority, since I feel like Muslims in America, we are like kind of the minority in a sense. So yeah, so hopefully one day I'll get to do that.
I'd say the biggest blessing we have here as Muslim Americans is like the opportunity for an education, like you said, Dunya. Like when I went to Yemen, I saw like a lot of people that they wanted to go to school so bad but couldn't. I met kids that would sell like fruits on the side of like a school, and like would look at the kids like going to school, but they wouldn't be able because they had a responsibility to provide for their family. And when you see people like that wanting to go to school so bad but aren't able to due to their situation, it's really sad. But alhamdulillah, we're blessed to be here in America. We have the opportunity of education, we have freedom of religion, we have so many opportunities that I definitely am taking advantage of.
Going based off what Hassan said, I would definitely say yes, education is definitely a huge privilege. I came to the States mainly for a better education, and I made sure I used every opportunity I get, like applying to scholarships and financial aid, which is really truly a blessing because, that is not always available in whatever country you live in overseas. Another privilege I would say we have is, just being around people who share the same religion and culture as you. So just like how we are right now, just all Muslims being around each other is definitely a huge privilege, I would say. Just living in a state that has a huge Muslim population is just amazing. It's different when you live in a state where you're just only Muslim. I went to Savannah, Georgia, where my cousins live, and they were pretty much the only two Arab families who live there. And that is just very hard, considering the fact that I live in a huge Muslim state. That is also a huge privilege that I feel is amazing. When I came to the States, most of the people who helped me in school and outside of school were Muslim and Arab. I feel like the privilege is just the fact that we all just love helping each other out. And like how Dunya said, we are the minority, so we try our best to help each other out.
Actually, you really hit some amazing points about educating. One thing I would push for others is just to learn about Muslims in general, to learn about what is a Muslim, meet a Muslim, talk to them, learn about them. I feel like we have this stigma, unfortunately, as from the news and from growing up, you can't blame from something being repeated over and over to you. So let's break that stigma. Let's, try to change that. Go out, meet people, educate yourselves. Like someone said here, knowledge is essentially what's going to lead you to be more successful. You're more open-minded. You have more sense of diversity. You have more sense of, you have a better sense of understanding culture between religion. You just become knowledgeable overall, so you know how to deal with people. You know how to communicate with people. Your whole lifestyle will change. So I just recommend going and educate. Like I've educated myself about Christians, about Jews, Hindus. Like I love learning different religions, and I love learning like about the Japanese culture, the Irish culture. Like it's really, really interesting. Going out and learning will definitely elevate you to a whole new world.
Actually, like the point that Omar Farhan made is like a really important point, because I feel like some people, or like most of the people that just like hear stories or like see news reports on the media, just like base their opinions about you just from this story, but they don't actually like experience it like in hand. They don't experience it in hand. I feel like it's important, like before actually like you make an opinion about someone, talk with them and like see their point. Maybe you have a wrong point about them. Maybe like they have a reason why like they're doing this. So the point that Omar Farhan made is like really good.
That's awesome, guys. Thank you so much for your contributions. I want to give this group a lot of credit today for being so open, honest, and transparent about their everyday life, about how they live their lives, their routines, being Muslims in America. They're all dynamic students at Moraine Valley Community College, leaders in the Arab Student Union and the Muslim Student Association. They have such bright futures ahead of them, and I'm really proud that I've had this opportunity and honor to talk with you all today. And so check out this podcast, put it on replay, rewind, listen to it over and over again. Let's give it some shares and get it out there so people can learn more about being young and Muslim in America. Thank you. Signing off from Moraine Valley Community College. Take care, everyone.